is, well, does it make a system easier to attack or does it make it harder to attack? That's really the big question, right? Okay, but before we talk about that, we have to talk about malware to begin with, okay? Malware gets its name from malicious software. So this is where you got, the where, the line, and this is where you got the name mal, okay? So malicious software is basically anything, any software of any nature that has a malicious intent. Okay, the developer has a malicious intent to develop that software. It can range from anything like a like a virus that we know about. It turns your computer into a robot, and it will spam other computers. It will get your email list, and it will spam all your friends. Okay, so it can be like that. Malware can also be Stuxnet. Has anyone heard of Stuxnet? Stuxnet.
Spell it again.
Okay, let me go to that web page. Better yet, it's Stuxnet, Stuxnet, and we'll go to Wikipedia. And I have already emphasized multiple times how in this particular class, because the topics tend to be technical, Wikipedia is not a bad source of information. Sometimes it's a little too much. They have tons of technical detail about it. Like this one, just look at the thumb bar here, the thumbnail. Okay, so this is Stuxnet. Okay, you can look it up yourself. I'm not expecting everybody to read the entire wiki page because I have problems reading the entire page also because there's a lot of technical stuff. But what it is a malicious software. Okay. The malicious intent, okay. The question is, what is the intent, okay, of the malware? With some malware, the intent is simply to turn your computer into a spamming computer. So instead of using a hacker's own computer to send out all the spam, your computer will be used to send out all the spam. So when they try to track down, where these spam is coming from, hey, they will track it down to your computer, okay? And then you'll say, I know nothing about this, this spamming thing. I just use my computer for simple stuff. Yep.
I know some hacking organizations that I don't personally know them, but
You are aware of. Yes.
That will get a lot of bots to
Yep, botnet.
totally spam a company to where they can extort money from them.
DDoS. It's called a denial of service attack. Yep. But so that's the intent. So we are talking about the intent of the malicious software. The intent of Stuxnet is not to blackmail your computer, blackmail you, or to get your social security number, or to get personal information about you, or use your computer to spam other computer. This one has a very specific purpose: to shut down the refinement of uranium in a nuclear plant. That was its purpose. Okay? Yep. You can read the rest of it. Okay, I'm just giving you a summary of a really huge, long article. Sorry?
Shut down
It shuts down the uranium refinement process of a nuclear plant. Yep, go ahead.
Do you mean torrent?
Torrent? Nope, has nothing to do with torrent. Okay, so, yeah, go ahead.
Didn't this one hit one of the
Iranian.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that was the first victim. Okay, the first victim was was a nuclear plant in Iran. The software was not designed to cause a meltdown, because a meltdown can cause an explosion, and then the explosion can cause radioactive material to be blown all over the place. Okay, including the country of origin. In this particular case. Okay. Remember, we are all living in a fish tank. Okay. It doesn't matter, where the fish tank is polluted. In the end, it will all come back to whoever is doing the pollution. Okay. So anyway, it was not designed to cause a meltdown. It is only supposed to shut down the refinement process. Okay. It's called a You can look it up and find out exactly what is deal. It's a very sophisticated software, okay? Because during the shutdown process or the damage is supposed to be very subversive. In other words, it will cause incremental damages that is difficult to detect until the thing is broken, okay? And it will cost a lot of money to replace the broken parts. It's designed to break parts that are expensive and difficult to acquire. And the process to break it was also very sophisticated. It's not like, oh, we'll just make it crash, and be obvious. No, it is designed to spin up and spin down the speed of the motor to the point where the motor cannot take the wear. But it's a very kind of gradual process. So by the time it's broken down, nobody could figure out, hey, how come we have 20 of these units breaking down in a month? They could not find out why. It's not easy to find out why. Okay. So this is interesting because it is not talking. We are not talking about money here. There's no money involved. It is actually an attack from one organization to an entire country. Okay. If you read this, there are some people saying, well, I think this country is responsible for this and that country is responsible for that. I'm not going to get into the politics of that, but there are definitely countries who are interested in shutting down the uranium refinement process in Iran. Okay, so I'll just leave it at that. Okay, the rest of that you can come to your own conclusion. You can read the article and then come to your own conclusion. So that's one of the that's one type of malware. So malware comes in all different forms. So the next thing that we want to talk about will be the different types of malware. Okay, so we have several types. One is called a virus. One is called a worm, and then we have some other things like spyware, Trojan. Now these are all concepts, okay? So the question is, how do these things all relate? Okay, so let's talk about something that is active, which is a worm. Okay, so a worm, I'm going to change the format here to a easier to manage type of thing, using bullet points. Okay, so a worm is characterized by several things. A worm is active, okay? Which means when this particular malicious software is running, it will actively try to infect another system. It will go out to try to infect another system. Okay, so it will attempt to infect other computers actively, which sounds really bad, right? Because this thing is actually alive and it is actively trying to go, hey, let me see what other computers are around me. I find one over there. Let me see if I can infect that one. Send over some networking protocol, track network traffic, and see if I can infect that computer. Sounds really bad, but it's not really as bad as some of the other ones because it can be stopped by a simple firewall. Okay. What exactly is a firewall in networking terms? A firewall is basically a traffic controller. Okay. So the traffic controller, I'm pretty sure most of you have Wi-Fi access, not Wi-Fi, sorry, take it back, broadband access at home, right? You have internet access, and I think very few people still use modems. Does anyone still use a modem? Now, I'm not counting broadband modem. I'm talking about like good old, dial-up modem. Nobody. Okay, go ahead. You had a question earlier.
I have a friend. How do they get to somebody's computer and destroy it?
Well,
how do they have access?
Well, we're going to talk about it. That's what we are talking about here. Okay. So a firewall, basically, when you connect your computer through a little box to get your internet access, one of those boxes, you probably have two boxes. One box is called a DSL modem or whatever they want to call that, and then the other box is called a router. Okay. The router is also acting as what we call a firewall. A firewall, by default, unless you change it, will stop all incoming traffic code. Okay. In other words, if someone wants to connect to your computer actively, the router will say, don't think so. And that basically stops all the worms right off the bat. Because all the worms will want to initiate a connection. But when a connection is initiated from the outside to try to connect to one of your computers in the inside, most firewalls are already set up to say, no, I don't think so. So that means a worm cannot infect a system behind a firewall, at least not easily. Okay, most of the time it will stop all of the incoming malicious connections. Yep.
I've noticed that some worms will ask if they can come in, like through other software.
That turns it into a Trojan, it's not a worm anymore. Because a worm is fully automatic. It doesn't rely on social engineering or other tricks to get into a system. Yep, go ahead.
It sounds like the worm is a dying breed program since it's easily stopped at the firewall.
Well, it is not dying because okay, think about it this way. Think about, let's say, a bank. Okay, so a bank definitely has really good firewall to stop all incoming traffic, all the malicious attempt from the outside, right? So what if the attempt is from inside the company? A lot of times they don't have firewalls within the company to stop to stop one computer inside the organization attacking another machine inside the same organization. A worm can still run free within an organization once it gets into the organization. So the next question is, how does it get into the organization to begin with? Because if we have all these super duper firewalls that should be able to stop all the worms from infecting a system. Yep.
So can you get a worm through email?
No, you cannot get a worm from email. This is what we are getting at. All the good stuff is coming, but that's a good question. Okay, what is a Trojan? A Trojan is a malicious gift. Okay, that's the best way to put it. It goes back to the original story. The name, of a Trojan comes from the story where there's a Trojan horse. Remember that story? Most of you, okay. Is it from Troy's? Okay, the Troy people. So they could not get into the fortress of some kind. The defense is really good. So they decided to offer a gift, okay, in the form of a wooden horse, a giant wooden horse, and they say to the people inside the fortress and say, you know what, I think you guys are really the best, okay, your defense is so good that we cannot penetrate. So instead of trying to attack you, we're going to give you a gift, okay, as a token of our appreciation of your super duper defense, right? So here's a Trojan, here's a horse, wooden horse, and we would like you to have it. So those guys can go like, well, I guess our defense is really the best, so I will accept your gift. That's okay. We like gifts like that. So they opened up the gate, and then they towed the Trojan horse inside, and at the same time, they were guarding the gate, right, just to make sure that these troops don't try to follow the wooden horse in. And then nothing happened. Everything is good. They close the gate and they look at the wooden horse and go like, yeah, we'll decide what to do with it tomorrow. Well, tomorrow never came to most of those people. Because there were soldiers inside the Trojan horse who came out, at night, and they were basically ninjas, right? I mean, they just kind of did all their things, and opened up the gate, and then the main army could get in, and that was the end of the story. And that's basically what Trojans, in the software sense, that's how they work too. Okay, so what kind of gift do you think these will be? Well, this can be a presentation file, which is a PPT or PPT